Okay, Ecuador expat video, take 4. Seriously, usually I can just point the camera at myself and start talking, and I get it in one take. I don't really have to think about it. My thoughts just come out. When I shoot my videos, I just talk to the camera like I'm talking to a friend or someone I've just met. I'm talking like I'm having a conversation. I don't plan them ahead of time. I don't give it a whole lot of thought. I don't know why this time this video is a little hard to shoot. I keep getting a little sidetracked in my thoughts. So I'm back in Ecuador. I'm in Quito, Ecuador, after a year contracting in Afghanistan. And I wanted to make a video about being an expat, about choosing an expat home base. For me, that's what Quito, Ecuador is. It's my home base for my expat lifestyle. First of all, when I say expat, what do I mean? Expat, the technical definition is anyone that has left their home country and has made a life in another country. But for the purpose of this video, I'm not talking about economic refugees. I'm not talking about people that are fleeing violence or anything like that. I'm talking about those of us that basically are trying to leverage our skills and our wealth and our opportunities to have the best lifestyle. So I live in Quito, Ecuador, and I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of Quito, Ecuador in this video, and Ecuador in general as an expat location. So in Quito, your dollar goes really far. And speaking of the dollar, Ecuador uses the dollar. They use US dollars as their currency. So it's very simple. It's very easy to know what you're paying for everything. You don't have to do any math. You don't have to use any sort of application to calculate how much the transactions are. Keeps it real simple, keeps everything very easy to calculate. So in Ecuador, the biggest reason that people move here and make it their expat home base is the cost of living. It's incredibly cheap. Now, there are cheaper places. Thailand's a little cheaper, Cambodia is definitely cheaper, I think probably Vietnam is cheaper. There may be some Central American countries that are currently torn apart by violence that are cheaper, but each of those places has their pros and cons. When I look at the complete picture, the whole package, Ecuador is the most bang for my buck. It is the best, most comfortable lifestyle for a very low cost of living. So I can eat in a restaurant for $2.50, maybe $3, a very filling meal. I can get street food for about $1. I can take a bus around Quito, Ecuador, which is it's a big city. It's about 2 million people, for 25 cents. I can take a taxi across town for about $5–10, depending on how far I'm going. I can go all the way to the airport, which is 45 minutes away, in a taxi for $25. So cost of living is very low. Healthcare. So in Ecuador, you have a government-run healthcare system that it's a single-payer system. You pay $70 a month. It covers you 100%. No deductible. Covers everything. My wife recently had her gallbladder out. Not only did it cover the entire surgery, but it also covered all the prescriptions. So they've got a pretty good single-payer system, but if you're having issues that require immediate attention, or you're having issues that maybe require a higher level of care than you're comfortable trusting to the government system, then there are private clinics. The private clinics are also inexpensive, and they offer a little bit better quality of care. So transportation, food, healthcare, all very cheap in Ecuador. Those are some of the pros. The other big pro is going to be that you can pick your own climate here. It's a very mountainous country, and it's right on the equator. You like hot, they got a spot for that. You like warm but not too hot, they got a spot for that. You like cold, they got a spot for that. I live in Quito, Ecuador. I wouldn't call it one of the valleys of eternal spring. It's about 1,000 feet above those valleys that are where most expats choose to live. But You know, it's a beautiful city. It's not too cold, it's not too hot. I'd call it like an early spring climate year round. So that would be the other big advantage. And also, as far as expat locations, if you're from the United States or Canada, it's not that far. You know, if you live in Thailand and your original country and your family is in the United States, it's an expensive ticket to fly back and forth. Or if you fly back and forth for work, that's pretty expensive. Ecuador is not the cheapest location. It's not as cheap as flying back and forth from Mexico, but it is it's radically cheaper than a lot of other expat destinations. So those are the pros. Some of the cons. Quito is a polluted city. It's 2 million people. It's high altitude. We're talking 9,000 feet. So there's a lot of exhaust from the buses. And you get outside of Quito, you get into the countryside, people don't have the best habits about littering and about pollution. So pollution is a big factor here. You know, I talked about the weather. You can pick your climate, but whatever climate you pick, you're going to be right on the equator. So the sun can be really intense. You either need to wear a hat or sunblock, or accept the consequences of not taking care of yourself in the sun. Imported goods are expensive. So they don't make any cars here. They don't make any cell phones. Almost everything outside of food and furniture and some leather goods and clothes are imported. And so buying a car, you know, a new car costs twice as much as it would in the US. A cell phone costs maybe 1.5 to 2 times as much. Computers cost more. Imported clothes cost more. All these things are far more expensive in Ecuador because of the high import taxes. So, you know, what that means is that the essentials, food, housing, I didn't talk about housing yet, did I? Food, rent, transportation, healthcare, all very cheap. But the luxuries, owning a car instead of taking the bus, cell phone, buying a pair of Nike sneakers, whatever, all those things cost far more. It's a great expat destination if you can live without the luxuries. If you can't live without those luxuries, it could be an expensive place to live. Crime. So overall, Ecuador's crime rate is similar to but slightly higher than the United States. It's more concentrated in specific areas. So in a safe neighborhood in Ecuador, I feel safer than I do in most parts of the United States. But in a dangerous neighborhood in Ecuador, I feel like I'm in a lot more danger than I am in even the most dangerous neighborhoods in the United States. There are some places here that are truly dangerous, and it takes a little bit of knowledge to make sure that you avoid being in those places. In Quito, there's parts of town I don't go to. Some areas far in the north and some areas way in the south that I avoid, because if I were to walk around those neighborhoods being a white guy, sooner or later I'm going to get robbed. I'm probably going to get knocked on the head and get robbed. So it takes a little bit more practice to stay safe. But if you know what you're doing and you're minding your own business and you're staying out of the bad parts of town, it's easier to stay safe. Violent crime is a little bit more random in the US than it is in Ecuador. So I think I've covered it. Hopefully I'll look at this video and I'll be like, yeah, I finally nailed it on the 4th try. Hopefully this will also be a new series where I talk about different expat cities. You know, I've traveled through Asia, I've traveled through Eastern and Southern Europe and parts of South and Central America, and I'd like to compare different expat cities and their pros and cons. I hope you guys bared with me. I know this isn't one of my typical traveling around, exciting helicopter ride, Afghanistan videos, but I hope you enjoy. You know, hit the like button if you did. That'll give me an idea whether I want to make more videos like this. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace out.